Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome back to another episode of Books and Buds, where we discuss two of the greatest things on planet Earth, books and buds. Today I'm kind of getting a little bit of an order ready for one of our patients, but before we get into it, I'd like to welcome you to hit that subscribe button, share this video with your friends. Please click like and comment with any critiques or anything that you liked about the video. We always appreciate your feedback. Alright, so let's get into it. For the buds portion of today's show, we have this customer, or potential client, that has been trying to do business with us for a long time. She's always looking for the Jack Skellington, though. It's just her favorite, and she doesn't really want to buy anything else. So she goes around to all these dispensaries trying to find it, and she tried it from us a long time ago, really enjoyed it. Every time she contacts us, we just so happen to be out. So since it's not something that we deal with when we sell to our caregivers at wholesale, we don't sell them the Jack. It's not that much of a demand for it, so we try to put a plan or two in every run to satisfy our patients' needs. So for her, what I decided to do was we're going to throw an extra plan in there just so we can make sure we have that little bit extra for her, because I don't want to lose a potential client because of this. So I talked her into trying the Sour Bubble. She's getting a full prescription today. I talked her into trying 1 ounce of Dr. Free. And I talked her into trying a ½ ounce of our Sour Freedom. So that takes care of her actual prescription. She can't buy more than 2½ ounces by law. But we are allowed to give away free samples. So hopefully she'll like some of this stuff. The Sour Diesel, the GG, and also the cookies. That way, if there's something else she likes and we don't have the Jack Skellington for her, we can still satisfy her needs, because a happy customer is a happy business. Okay, so that takes care of the buzz portion of today's video. Today, I'm getting to a book that I've been trying to make a video for a long time. I finished the last story this morning, and that's why I haven't made a video for it, because it's a book of short story collections. And I frankly didn't know how to approach a book of short stories. So, this is from, it's called Breath of the Void by Aditya Deshmukh. And he's just been super supportive of my channel. He's been super eager to have me give him some feedback on his book. So I decided that, you know what, I read that final story this morning, and I'm just going to go for it. So hopefully, Aditya, that I do a good job, and I apologize if I don't. You're breaking my short story collection virginity here on Books and Buds, so please be gentle. So, Breath of the Void, it starts off with a short little poem. It's a collection of short stories, but he introduces us to the book by giving us this poem called Void. So, what I think he's doing by that is giving us either his interpretation or the narrator's interpretation of what a void really is. So, it's, or potentially what it means to the author, I don't know. So, you have lines like, staring into the night sky, an armor of emptiness is thus born, and this is where the narrator feels they've gone too deep and they're no longer able to come back out of the void. So apparently they're lost in the stars now, lost in the emptiness of space. And then we start getting into short stories. So the very first one is called A Plain Nameless Buzz, and it was the perfect little story to introduce this book. This book basically about voids and emptiness, because it's about a guy alone in a station way in the middle of a rainforest. It kind of reminds me of like an Edgar Allan Poe tale, because you can kind of get a sense this guy's gone slowly insane over the years. He's been alone for a long time in the station in the middle of nowhere, and he starts hearing this strange buzz, and it's driving him crazy. The only companion he has is this I guess like a voice in the system that he's able to talk to. And it does some nice things for him. Like it does some calculations and runs diagnostics for him. But it's not exactly a companion like a human being or anything like that. So he decides to go and find out what this buzzing is for himself, because this voice that he talks to isn't much help. It has no idea what it is either. When he's out in the rainforest, he discovers the source of this strange sound, this strange buzzing, is coming from this lake. So that's when we kind of get an idea of what this particular void that Deshmukh might be talking about, Aditya Deshmukh might be talking about, because he decides to slip himself into the lake, and the void consumes him. It's like that nameless buzz ends up being this all-consuming void that just takes him over, and now he's a part of it. So that's how he introduces this short story collection, and it was a very clever way of doing it, because the whole book kind of, it seems to me like it's just different stories describing different voids, which could be interpreted as religious events. It could be interpreted as what people expect the afterlife to be, and which leads me to, so I had two favorite stories in this particular book that I'd like to discuss today. One of them was the second story, was called A Dance of Flames, and the last one was All Hallows Eve. All Hallows Eve I liked for different reasons. I'll get into that second. But from what I could tell, it didn't really have anything to do with the void, and since I was expecting that, I think that was one of the reasons I liked it. It came as a nice little surprise. But back to A Dance of Flames. In this story, the void is death. You know what I'm saying? And in this book, we're dealing with a queen, and her name is, I had to write it down, Queen Kritka. I could be saying that wrong, so I apologize, Aditya, if I am. So she seems to worship fire, and we get a sense that she has some power, and she's able to manipulate fire, which is a darn good thing because her husband was recently killed, and the whole kingdom is under siege. There's this usurper. He decided to just kill everyone that didn't want to work with him, and now he's just after the throne himself. And he makes the silly mistake of thinking that Queen Kritka is just going to get on her knees and just give him everything he asked for, because he's basically offering to turn her into a sex slave in return for her life, just in return for just obedience. If she's obedient to him, then he'll just let her live and be a sex slave. And apparently he's arrogant enough to think that that might be a good life for her. Well, no. She's the queen. She's the ruler. She's very used to that kind of a life, and she's not so willing to give it up. That's when we learn how tough she is. She's really tough. And one of the reasons she's tough is because of her belief in the afterlife. She believes her husband is in this eternal lake of flame. Now, in Christian religions and many other Western religions, this might sound like we're talking about hell. For her, since she worships the flame, this is her idea of heaven. It's wonderful. And when you pass away, this serpent of fire comes, and you're able to ride this serpent of fire into the afterlife, the eternal lake of flame. So she's not really too afraid of death. So she's willing to fight this guy. And it's pretty cool to watch how Aditya characterizes this woman, and he develops her character. And we learn that she's quite tough, and she's no one that this usurper should be tangling with. And I think that's why I liked it. I really did. I kind of liked the strong female character trope. But the nice thing about it is she wasn't discovering her powers and leery of her powers. She wasn't trying to figure out any of this and stumbling over any of these crazy roadblocks along the way. She was a really confident woman. She knew what she was doing. This guy didn't. So it was a really nice way to kind of escape that trope of the woman stumbling upon her powers and realizing her strength. This woman already knew it. The story began right there. All right. That leads us to All Hallows Eve. Now, the reason I like this story is because it was a quaint little, I guess, a YA horror story. Now, this was a collection of horror stories, but I don't want you to start thinking that, well, it's like a Richard Lehman or a Brian Keene where there's just a ton of bloody gore and senseless violence. There was. It actually reminded me a little more of a Dean Koontz or a Stephen King, maybe even an Anne Rice feel to it. Actually, I'd like to compare it more to, I guess, Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe, because it was a little more mysterious, a little more dark and fantasy-like. And it was just an innocent little story about some kids trick-or-treating. All Hallows Eve. But the older brother wanted to go to this one particular house because rumor had it the woman that lived there enjoyed meddling with young boys sexually. She enjoyed showing them the adult ways of life, if you know what I mean. And it was interesting. So this boy talked him into going to this haunted house, and the younger kids were like, no, we don't want to go to the haunted house. Of course, the older brother got his way. Kids got some candy, but then all hell breaks loose from there. And it was pretty clever the way he did it, because they wake up the next morning in their beds and everything's fine, but then the parents are really mad at them for being out so late. So there's this lost period of time from the night before when they stopped trick-or-treating to the next morning. They don't remember any of it. Why are the parents so upset? They don't remember coming home late. They don't remember coming home at all. The parents are just not happy. I don't want to give away too much of that ending because I actually enjoyed it very much, and I think you will too. But I also like the way that Aditya used a lot of Bible names in this particular story. We got Gabriel, Lucy, which I believe that was a play on the word Lucifer. I could be wrong. But he also used Eve, Lilith, and Luke. Now, the reason I liked what he did with Lilith and Eve, some of you might not be aware, but if you're kind of a Bible buff, Lilith was the woman that God gave to Adam before Eve came along. Adam was dissatisfied with Lilith. Therefore, God gave him Eve instead. So in this book, we kind of have the same thing. So I'm wondering if Aditya was kind of using a little bit of symbolism in this story, because Eve is the woman that takes over for Lilith, the body of Lilith. Again, I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't want to give away the ending. I like the story very much, and I think you will too. I want you to be surprised. But I liked how he did that, and I got a sense that Aditya is kind of a Bible buff like myself, and I thought that was kind of cool. Made me feel really connected to the author. So that's it for this video. Like I said earlier, guys, please hit that subscribe button. If you like what we do here on Books and Buds, share it. Leave a comment. Hit that like button. And like I said with every video, you could have clicked on any book review channel, but for some reason you clicked on mine. I love the hell out of you for it. You guys have an awesome day. I'll be coming at you from Guatemala next week, and the week after that, we'll be celebrating some of the best Latino writers that the world has to offer. I hope I can really satisfy you guys with those channels. I'm looking forward to coming at you then. We'll see you next time.